Deep in heartland America, our nation's nuclear facilities are protected by an elite force from the Department of Energy. None dare stand up to them and their fearsome SMGs, except a new face of evil. George Droid seeks to obtain all nuclear reactors to help supplement his Fent reactors. Can this new evil be stopped?
I first conquered the Fent. Now the Department of Energy is mine.
Not today, George Droid.
I need Task Force 69 immediately!
Mike, I'm right here, buddy.
John, you son of a bitch.
Let's take him down together.
John, no! This Fent reactor is too strong. It's impossible.
Mike,
John, you're alive?
last Narcan. Make it count.
Time to come down off that high. Today on Grantham, we review the Harrington and Richardson DOE, the Department of Energy gun. What is the DOE? The DOE is basically a Colt 635 that was modified to defend nuclear reactors. It's a very interesting historical model. We're very excited to do some content on it because you know what? It just got released and it's cool and old guns are a vibe. Today in Grantham, the H&R DOE subgun. But before we get into that, we of course have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, who's Primary Arms. If you're looking to get great optics at a great price, well, we can't recommend them enough. And in fact, their HTX-1 optic fits and co-witnesses with stock Glock iron sights. We love it so much. Me and John, we've been shooting it a bunch, haven't we?
Yeah, sick.
There you go. See, look at John. I'm cold. John's not made for this weather. Go check them out. Big thank you to him. And of course, Henry Repeating Arms, one of our favorite gun manufacturers. One, they're super cool that they're actually sponsoring this channel. We're pretty controversial. And two, they're made in America or they're not made at all. Go and get yourself a lever gun. There is nothing more American than them. And they have a ton of different models from 4570s all the way down to 44 mag and 9mm revolvers. Everything you could possibly want. Go and check them out. If you want to become a better shooter, dry fire. Mantis is going to turn your gun into a dry fire machine. We cannot recommend enough. And finally, all ammunition is provided for by AAC. Let's get into it. Well, before we get into the autistic talking portion, what do we have to do, John?
Good little range session.
There we have it. So we're going to start off. We're going to show the performance of this gun. Was it made for the snow? Probably not, but here we are. So we're going to start off with the good old bill drill. Bill drill is going to be 6 rounds at 7 yards. We want it under 2 seconds. So we'll go ahead, we'll give this a shot, then John will go. John's fingers are frozen, so they're probably not going to work. John, you want to go ahead and hit me with that buzzer?
Yep. You ready? Stand by. 147.
Woohoo! Got it. Okay.
So right here we're using primarily Durmag, as well as the H&R mags. So we do want to thank Gun Mag Warehouse and Durmag for sending their magazines for us to test out, and they've been absolutely flawless. So can't recommend them enough, and they are a great price.
That's a good group. Yeah. John, you're up, buddy. And if John loses, he doesn't know this, but he has to put pronouns in his bio. No, I'm just going to eat this barrel instead. We don't joke about suicide in Grantham. Yeah, we do. Shooter, do you understand the course of fire? John's actually not fired this gun before, so how does it feel? Oh, of course he does. Okay, Frank Proctor. Shooter, do you understand the course of fire? Stand by. 136. Good job, buddy. Clean. All right, looks good. So subguns and 9mm subguns are really interesting. This is a direct blowback weapon. So because of that, the amount of recoil that you're getting is it's quite a bit more than what you'd expect. It's pretty comparable to an AR. It's a little bit less. Obviously, 9mm has less blast and concussion, but like compared to an MP5, this jumps and recoils quite a bit more. That's not to say it's uncontrollable, but merely to say that if you're expecting a very light recoiling weapon with a blowback operated 9mm, you're not going to get that. Okay, next up, we're going to go ahead and do a Mozambique. This one's going to be at 3 yards. Mozambique because the guy got shot twice in the chest, one more in the head to make sure he's dead. Happened at an airport, right?
I have no idea, bro.
Pretty sure it was a Browning high-powered airport, Africa. I don't know. TIA. All right.
All right, shoot ready.
Yeah.
Stand by. 102.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Okay, check that. Okay, we got 2 in the A. Hey, I got it. It was close. That little card's hard to hit. All right, once again, John has to make a profile on Grindr if he loses.
Well, I've already got 4.
What is it? It's like when you go to prank your bro by signing him up for Grindr, but it says email already used.
Already issued.
Remember, we're at 3.
Oh, yep.
Shoot you inside the course fire. Yep. Stand by. 0.85.
Does this count?
Oh, no.
It's in his nose.
No,
it's in his
no,
nostril.
looks like you got to make another email for another Grindr account.
I gave him an NPA with a 9mm. Like, he's dead.
Fair enough. One thing that we also want to show with the Department of Energy gun is going to be maneuverability. One of the reasons they selected this was over-penetration near nuclear reactors and nuclear material, which is good. You know, here in Grantham, we're not about federal agencies having a ton of power, but I think we can all agree that we want nuclear material to be well guarded and to be buried deep under the Mormons in Utah where it belongs.
Yeah.
The mountain juice. Well, great part about this guy being so short is going to be maneuverability here. So I'll just demonstrate that to start. So if we're starting it on buzzer, what's nice is having that really short barrel. 9mm really doesn't need a lot to achieve its full velocity. We're able to very easily maneuver around. So whether this be used in the convoys that they had or used in those confines of a nuclear facility, fairly easy to run. John, go ahead and hit me. We'll do 2 rounds each.
Shoot ready. Stand by. 345.
Sick.
Looks like all A's.
Yep.
You were starting on Barricade.
Yep. Sure, dancing course fire.
Yep.
Stand by. Good shooting, Ranger. 308. All right. Now, a lot of people believe that with a subgun or one of these small, short-barreled 9mm, that shooting at distance is impossible. Even in this bad weather, you're going to see how easy it is to make long shots with a 9mm. All right, we're at 150 yards right now. Maybe a little bit more, maybe closer to 175. We got C-Zone Steel right out there. Let's see how she does. Okay, very doable. Not too bad. All right, John, bring great honor upon your family. Oh, John wasn't made for the sale. No. Aim right at the head. That's the hold.
And that one. And that one.
You got it. No problem. Okay, so we've done a lot of shooting with the DOE gun at this point. It definitely has some problems with the suppressor. It's not great, and there's a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead. Let's sit down in this beautiful snowstorm, and let's talk about how the DOE did. Is it something you should buy? Is it something you shouldn't buy? Or what's option 3, John?
It's super cool, and you really want it because it's cool.
Why do we love Fed guns so much? I don't know. It's a juxtaposition. Hate the Feds, but love their guns.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like hundreds of pictures of these on the internet, but never seen somebody like in person, like at the range that had one. I mean, they're basically unobtainable.
Okay, let's go talk about it. Now, this video is brought to you by TacPack. Now, do you have friends where you're not sure what to get them for their birthday or for a nice little gift? Or maybe you yourself are indecisive. TacPack is a monthly subscription service with great brands that you know and love, like 9line Apparel, Reptilia, and many other great ones. Now, TacPack has 2 main tiers. You have Standard and Plus. With your Standard, you're paying $59.95, and you're getting in the box a value between $90 to $150. This is because of the power of group buying. And with TacPack Plus, you're spending $139.95. You're getting a value well into $300. Things like Mission First Tactical Backup Sights. We have iPro because guess what? You only have 2 eyes. Of course, to make sure you don't make the fatal mistake of 22 Man, we have a laser rangefinder. And to keep your Gucci pistol, Gucci, of course, different types of pistol cases. Point is, TacPack is awesome. We have to give them a big thank you for sponsoring this video. Go and check out TacPack. When you use the code GRAND, you get over $60 extra and free things, bringing the value of these boxes way high. Go and check them out. Back to the content. So we've done a lot of shooting. Let's do a little bit of talking. Now, before we get into it, obviously we have the Harrington and Richardson Department of Energy, SMG. However, that being said, H&R is a subsidiary or connected to Palmetto State, which is connected to AAC, who we are sponsored by, so there also obviously has to be a full disclosure there. So full disclosure, I have talked to the engineers that had time in this project. I am, I would say, buddies with the guys at H&R. That being said, here in Grantham, we never pull punches, whether it be the AK-74 from PSA that we absolutely demolished and they actually made changes due to our review, or otherwise, we don't have any problems pulling punches. There was no exchange of money for this. Obviously, we did receive ammunition from AAC, but that is our full disclosure. I don't let any of that affect me because I like to think about it when I was a college student and, you know, was really pinching my pennies to make sure I made a good purchase. I don't want to steer you guys wrong, and that's very, very important to me that I maintain my neutrality in every review that I do. Now, let's go ahead. Let's get into this. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the history. Let's talk about all the fun stuff. Now, at this point, we do have about 1,500 rounds on this guy, and we have had a few hiccups. We know what those are caused from, so let's delve into it. So, the DOE gun is a 9mm Colt-style 633, which is a blowback-operated weapon. Feeds from the Colt SMG mags, which, for all intents and purposes, are simply modified Uzi magazines. Has a 7-inch barrel. And very interestingly, we have 5/8 by 24 threads, which is not the most common thread pitch for a 9mm. And let's get into it. So we're going to go tip to butt, just like our Navy guys love. So start with the thread pitch right here. When I talked to PSA about this, the reason is that the engineers were happier with the strength that the 5/8 threads gave compared to the more typical 1/2 by 28. I really can't fault that. There are tons of adapters out there. Might be kind of a pain the first time when you have to screw a different hub into your 9mm can, but that is very doable. Now, in our case, we did use the Omega 9K can during some of our filming and initial shooting, and we did have some issues there. So I talked to a lot of different people out there from different IG channels like Gun Quality and all those types of guys about how they were able to make their DOE guns function with a suppressor. So due to the blowback nature of the DOE gun, it's not as forgiving as like a DI system, a piston system. Throwing a suppressor on there is going to cause some issues because a blowback system is simply counting on the weight in the buffer and the weight of the bolt carrier group to ensure that the weapon is operating reliably. When you increase the back pressure, you're increasing the speed of everything and you're possibly causing some mistiming issues. So in the case of our Omega 9K, the overpressure was just a little bit too much and the gun was having issues. In this case, it's a fairly easy fix. My buddies who have been using cans on this have used the KAK Industries 8-ounce buffers, and those have done really, really well. Or if you have like a flow-through can, you won't have to add as much weight to the buffer. But understand this isn't like a plug-and-play system like you usually have. Now, that being said, without the can on there, this gun is absolutely fine. And again, these DOE guns originally were made to be used without a suppressor because they actually did not have threaded barrels originally because, you know, in the late 80s when these were made, suppressors weren't nearly as common as they are nowadays. Which brings us to our first history lesson. How was this made? Well, you know, Colt's an interesting one. When people were like, hey, we'd like a short AR-15 or a short M16 in 9mm, Colt would be like, cool, go buy the Commando, which is a 5.56 rifle, and 5.56 does perform really well out of the 11.5 or 10.5 inch barrels. However, depending on the application, many customers were asking for a 9mm capable weapon. Most notably, the Department of Energy, just due to the fact that they're working around nuclear material, they would not like that to over-penetrate and cause any issues, which is understandable. So enter the 635 and later 633, which we have right here. Obviously, this one was slightly modified compared to your typical 635 that you saw, but we have what we have. Now, there are many questions about why this was adopted compared to, say, a close competitor, which was the MP5K. Now, this was obviously a little bit modified from your typical MP5K, but for all intents and purposes, the guts are the same. The recoil pattern is the same. And again, at the time, H&K was making huge inroads on the MP5 in terms of its reliability, how well it was working. It was well established as a 9mm subgun. Now, we don't know exactly why the Department of Energy chose the DOE, the Colt 9mm subgun, over the MP5, although we could probably surmise that it had something to do with the fact that, well, one was made in America and one was made in Germany. So the home team took it home, and we have the DOE gun right here. Now, one thing I do want to do before we go any further in, let's go ahead, let's check to see the recoil difference between the two, because again, the MP5K is a roller delayed system compared to the blowback design. You'll see there is a fairly big difference in terms of the recoil impulse. So we have our MP5K. So the MP5K, very pleasant to shoot. Now let's try it versus the DOE. DOE being a blowback operated weapon. Now, I do want to be clear. Some people will say that with the blowback designs that it's like significantly more. It's not as much of a difference between the two as you'd think. Certainly, the MP5K is a more sophisticated roller delayed design, and because of that, it does feel softer, but it's not as big as you'd think. Now, another reason that they likely adopted is the fact that, well, people are familiar with the M16. Commonality in manual of arms made this a lot easier to use. Now, going back to there, we get into some very interesting design choices on the 633/DOE SMG. And I also do want to point out, I typically don't wear sunglasses, but my God, is it bright outside today. And without sunglasses, I am actually getting sun blindness. So don't be, afraid because I have sunglasses on right now. Now, going back to there, we do have a sight that it folds. Now, that's interesting. It's not any type of button or anything. It's just detent operated. So with the folding sight, we're not really sure why specifically. Many theories as far as like snag or something like that. Honestly, we just don't know. At the front here, we have this huge metal heat shield. Now, this was made to ensure that when you're gripping this guy, that you're not going to let your hand slide forward and possibly in front of the muzzle, especially because, well, there was very little muzzle out past this. Now, back from here, we do have a handguard from the port-firing weapon, which is already a weapon that had been designed by Colt. Now, why did they use the port-firing weapon handguards? Well, we can only surmise, but the best guess would be they had a lot of port-firing handguards, and it made the most financial sense. And it does give it a very cool look, and in fact, these handguards do work really well. They have a great heat shield to them, and H&R has done a wonderful job reproducing these and reproducing every part that we have here. Moving back there, we have our standard delta ring as far as switching things out. Now, on my particular version, I do have a Trijicon reflex sight. Why? Well, because it looks super cool on this. Did they actually run these? There's some speculation that different types of optics were used, but again, this is somewhat of a unknown. Now, moving back from there, we do have your typical A1 style upper receiver right here. Now, what's really interesting is we do have a A1 style rear aperture sight, and this is actually specifically graduated for 9mm, so it's not simply an A1 sight that they slapped in there. Rather, they did do some engineering to make sure that it was going to work well. Now, moving down to the lower is interesting. It is a SMG specific lower, and H&R did a wonderful job getting this made. So you can see this will only accept 9mm Colt SMG mags / Uzi mags. Big thank you to the Israelis, or not. So we do have that. Now, as far as the trigger is concerned, most of your typical AR-15 triggers will work. There has been some talk about different hammer designs working better or worse. In our case, we have a Geisley SSF in there, because we were throwing a dice in there at various points to test out certain capabilities that we can't show here on YouTube. We haven't had any issues, but understand that your mileage may vary a little bit. Now, we did have those initial issues with the suppressor functionality and a little bit of a break-in on this guy. It certainly wasn't perfect right off the bat. About the first 500s when we encountered the most amount of malfunctions. A lot of that we could attribute to the dais, and a lot of it we could contribute to the suppressor. So all in all, this weapon did perform very well, and after we got past that point, this weapon has been smooth as butter. The nice thing about a blowback operated weapon is that it is incredibly reliable. Just a little bit little bit Neanderthal in its approach to functionality of a weapon. Now, as you can see, this is a standard lower otherwise. We have a magazine release on the right-hand side. We have a bolt hold open on the left side. Originally, these were conceptualized as using ambidextrous controls on the prototypes. That didn't end up being the case, and we have our standard design right here. Now, right here, we do have our nice little cute dust cover. They're a little bit shortened compared to the normal one. They're not cut specifically where it's just like an AR-51 that's cut down the center. It is made specifically for this. And obviously, we do have a slab side upper receiver. That means we do not have any type of forward assist. By people who hate the forward assist, rejoice, not really needed in a blowback operated weapon, so that makes sense. Now, you can see this huge brass deflector right here. And the question is, why? Why is it so big? Well, it was actually because of the blowback operated design and nature of the gun. You don't have a whole lot of places for gas to go once that weapon cycles except for back. So by having a larger brass deflector back there, it allows less of that gas to come back to your face. And this is a gassy weapon. I did have like nice little black smudges on my face from shooting it for the last couple days. So that is a welcome addition. I know my left-handed camera guy was happy about that. And this little guy is rubber, so there's been a question like, what's the durability of it like? Well, I can say that on ours, we'll do a close-up right here. It is fairly worn right there. The brass is definitely chewing into it, and this is a part that you'll likely have to replace. That is the nature of the DOE gun. This is the way they were made. Now, moving back from there, we have our standard charging handle. We have our standard grip. Obviously, on our gun, we have changed the safety out for certain features. But let's try the trigger out right here. Now, typical triggers, it's your standard AR-15 trigger. We have a little nicer one in this one. So we have a nice little 2-stage trigger. Off that let off from the Geisley, we have about a 3-pound pull. From the reset, beautiful trigger. So that is our trigger. We have our typical takedown for this guy. And then moving back to the buttstock. Now, the DOE gun does ship with a pistol brace. Depending on your how much you like the laws of the ATF and the laws of land, you're going to switch that out to whatever you want. We have an older style metal Car 15 stock with the butt pad added and zip tied on for that really old school look with the Blue Force gear sling. Overall, when I was first getting my hands on this gun, I was not super excited to try it out. I was like, oh cool, like a Colt SMG. But it's grown on me. It's small, it's compact, it looks really cool. And you know what? It really just ended up being a really, really fun gun to shoot. I understand that 5.56 is a better round. That being said, there's something about a pistol caliber carbine, about a submachine gun that I just absolutely love. One other great thing that we do have to note is with the magazines, Uzi mags / the Colt SMG mags, in a 5.56 pouch, you can fit 2 of them. So certain companies have taken advantage of this, like Mimic Firearms with their kind of double-sided. If you don't have that, then it is cool that you get to stuff in 2 mags so you can carry a ton of ammunition on you for that 9mm goodness. Are you bullet hosing people to the ground? Possibly. But, you know, you have enough ammo. You can carry enough ammo for it. Guys, that brings us to the end of the DOE gun. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me, duty-rated gun? Yes, no. I would say no for this guy. Just due to the initial kind of break-in procedure that we have. We're still having some occasional failures to eject and stuff. I know other people have been very lucky on theirs. But if there's going to be any company that I'm going to be extremely critical on, it's going to be H&R and PSA. Sorry, guys. It's just not something I would specifically choose as a end-of-the-world gun. There are other guns from H&R that I would absolutely choose for that application, just not specifically the DOE. I think that comes down to more than just my review. I think it comes down to time. For a gun to be truly ready for that war-type situation, it does need to have a lot of time on it and a lot of experience in the field to prove and vet that particular system. The DOE gun, obviously from Colt, the 633, is a very well-known, very well-proven design. I suspect that H&R has done an extremely good job, and this will be much the same. A very well-vetted and proven weapon that could serve itself in a bad situation. Just as of now, I would give it more time to mature and to make sure that everything is up to spec. Now, everything that we've seen has been great. The bolt is wearing in perfectly. There's no anything weird going on with the wear patterns on the bolt or anything that we've encountered. We need hundreds of thousands of rounds on different models before we can say for a fact. But if you got the extra money, 100% the DOE gun is super, super awesome. So get out there, try it out. Here's the thing, guys. If you do have this for any world gun and you're worried, don't be worried. Train. Get training. Training is what matters, guys. We appreciate you so much. Tons of great things coming. Final thing for you guys, dad advice. Make sure that you're enjoying nature, because it is fairly pretty out here. So make sure you get out there, enjoy the fresh air. Thank you guys. We got nothing else for you.